Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam, and I'm a
And
non-gamer.
we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at Alpujarras by Dr. Friend Games.
Alpujarras, which we're not 100% sure if that's the correct way to pronounce this game, but we're going to roll with that, is a game in which you are placing your farmers in different farmlands trying to harvest different fruits. And you want to deliver those fruits to different places on the board. So this is going to be an area majority contract fulfillment game in which you're taking actions by moving yourself along an action track, and whoever's at the end of that action track is the person who gets to go next. So you don't want to move too far down that track because you're going to be missing out on special actions that you need to take throughout the course of this game. Let's go down to the table where I'll show you how it works in more detail, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, I have Alpujarras on the table. Let me show you all this area majority track progression game. Not really track progression, action selection as you move down this track. And I would say it's a rondelle, but you don't only go around this one time, so it's not really a rondelle, but you are picking the action you want with this game. Now with this one, what you have for the components, you've got this central board out here that's going to have different regions. As you can see, you have these chunky fruit pieces here. These are wooden, painted. You've got your cherries, you've got some oranges, you've got some green apples, some lemons, and some grapes. You do have lots of pieces that come into the supply here that you can keep off to the side. You also have a money resource. These are dirhams, I think is how it's pronounced. You've got these cog-looking pieces. These are narayas. And then you've got these water irrigation tiles. And you've got some extra cards up at the top. We'll cover what all of these components do as we explain the rules. Now, with this game, you are going to set up your board around the outside, your action selection board around the main board, and these pieces are going to be modular. You're going to shuffle these up and then set them up randomly around the outside edge of the board. However, you do have to have a market space followed by a harvest space. That is mandatory, so you do have to put it in some kind of order. Now, on the back side of these are the 4 or 5 player version of the game that are going to give you more action spaces, more spaces to land on, whereas on this side, this is going to be your solo 2 and 3 player. Now, on your turn, this game is very simple as far as what you'll be doing on your turn. You'll move, whoever is furthest back is going to be the person who's active. That's the player who's going to get to go. And you can move as far down the line as you want. However, you can never go back. And so whenever you move over a space, if you're not taking the action there, that's the only time that you would get to do it. So let's cover what some of the basic actions are. To go to a spot like this right here where you've got the farmer icon with the plus sign, that's going to allow you to put one of your farmer meeples on one of the different regions on the board. And so this is an area majority game where you want to have majority of your farmers in a region that is more than any of the other players. Now, whenever you do place a person into that region, you will get to take one of the fruits that are there in that region. So you can see in this yellow region, we've got lemons, of course, because lemons are yellow. You'll always have that particular fruit with the region that matches the color. We've got green apples and we've got grapes. And so I would pick one of those to place off to the side. Now, you can have at maximum 5 fruits throughout the course of the game. And that's just simply putting your farmer in a region. Now, some of the other actions, if you see this cog right here, that's going to simply just let you take one of the naraya, and these are the bigger narayas that are going to actually act as 3 of the little ones. We'll come back to what those do in a second. And if you do this action that has the irrigation, then you are going to take one of the irrigation tiles that come either in the T shape or in the straight shape here. We'll cover the T shape. And you're just going to add it to where you see the water coming in on the edge of the board here. And so if I place it right here like that, I would then gain what is listed here in this spot, which is one of the Narayas. And this exclamation point means that I have actually accessed the water to this spot right here on the board, and I can cause a new crop to grow in that section. So I would take one of these tokens here, choosing which crop I want. And so it can be any of them. And let's say I just put those grapes there. And when that happens, the grapes grow up. And so we'll put some grapes on here, and I actually do get a grape myself when that happens. So that's the gist of these actions right here. Some of the other actions looking on down the line, that's going to be letting you take any kind of fruit that you want in the game. If there's a colored background to the space that you're going to, it means that you have to take that action in that region. So placing a farmer in the green region over here, and again, taking one of the fruits that are there in the green region. That's the main portion of what you'll be doing, is placing your workers in these spots. So why do you want to do that? Why do you want to get your workers out there on these different regions? Well, whenever you come to these spaces here with the cart in them, that's the market space, and that's going to let you be able to fulfill one of these delivery tokens right here in one of the regions, as well as fulfilling these cards up here. Now, the catch is, whenever I come to one of these spots, so let's go ahead and put my mule in one of these spots, and I would probably take one of these that has the bonus action in them. I will then have to pick one of the delivery tokens where I have a farmer in that region to satisfy what's on the token. So in other words, I need 5 green apples to satisfy this token. And if I have 5 green apples, I can cash those in, returning them to the supply to take this token for the money that's printed on the back of the tile. Now, I don't get that money now. That would be something I get at the end of the game, and you want to have the most money in this game. And so that is this market action. In addition to taking one of those, I could fulfill one of these cards, simply returning what is on the card to the supply, claiming the card for the money at the end of the game. And I could do both of those things, or I could just do one of those things. I don't have to do both of them, but that's what this market action is going to let you do. Now, these harvests actions also, I did forget one thing. Whenever you do fulfill one of these delivery tokens, you do have to take one of your farmers that's there in that region and place them into that town of that region, and effectively that removes them from the game. They are no longer counting towards your area majority in this particular region, nor could you use that farmer to fulfill another delivery token later on in the game. When you are the first player to deliver a particular tile in that region, you do get to take the bonus that's on these tokens right here. And this is modular. You can change this up throughout the course of the game, but this would let me move one of my farmers from one region to another region and then take a Naraya. And then I flip this token over, and as you can see, it's a lesser benefit to any other player that delivers one of these delivery tokens throughout the rest of the game. Now, these harvest spaces here with the green symbol with the scythe on them, that's also going to take a look at who has the area majority in these different regions. When somebody lands on one of these spots, you'll look and see who has the majority of each region. And whoever does have majority, you have to have the most. You can't be tied. Whoever has the most is going to gain one of those fruits that matches that color region. And so that's another way that you're going to want to try to get the most in each of the regions to maximize the fruit tokens that you're getting in that. And when you do max out with your 5 fruits, you do get to take a Naraya as a consolation prize, because you can't take a 6th fruit. You can take one of these Narayas. So let's cover what those Narayas do, because you cash in on those Narayas to take bonus actions throughout the course of the game, such as swapping out fruits, because you're going to be wanting to try and swap out your fruits to fulfill these tokens as they get satisfied by the other players, or these cards up here. And so you'll be wanting to swap those out frequently. You can spend 2 Naraya to move one of your farmers, 3 to add another farmer, 4 to add another farmer, plus you get 1 Dirham, and then 5 to add a farmer but get 3 Dirham. And so the Narayas are very powerful for you as well. Now, you can only have 5 Narayas throughout the course of the game, so there's a limit to how many of those you can have as well. Anyhow, that's pretty much the gist of the game. You'll be going around the board, choosing whatever action you want to stop at, and again, whoever's furthest back is going to be the person who takes the next turn. There is one other spot on the board that I should point out, and that's going to be whenever you land on one of these check mark spots right here, and that's the option to fulfill one of these goals that are up here. Now, these cards are double-sided. You'll shuffle them up and decide which side of each card you want to play with, but they're going to be specific things that you're trying to fulfill. And if you have what is listed on the card, then you can put one of your farmers on the space that pays out the highest maximum amount and get the money immediately when you have the requirements, but also when you land on a check mark to be able to do that. Now, if you land on one of those check mark spaces and you don't have anything that's on the cards, you're not out of luck necessarily. You can pick up one of these guys right here, which lets you cash in on it later on in the game, but you do have to come back to another check mark space. You don't get to just cash this in whenever you feel like it because you have the requirements now. You do have to go back to another check mark space. And I will point out that on the last tile where the end space is, you do have to end in one of these boxes. There are those check marks so that you can complete goals at the very end of the game if you have what you need to do it. Now, that's pretty much the gist. I did leave one other part out, and that's this card that's over here, barely on screen. And anytime somebody does deliver fruit, if there's a particular fruit that matches what you're delivering, so for instance, these grapes right here, well, that's not a good example. Let's use these cherries right here. So if I deliver cherries, and cherries is in this spot right here, I would get one extra dirham, and then we would move the cherries to the back of the line and move everything else up so that, there's a special benefit to delivering one that hasn't been delivered most recently. Anyhow, that's the gist of the game. Once everybody gets down here to the end spot, you'll count up dirhams, see who has the most, and that person will be the victor. And that is how you play Alpujarras. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Alpujarras from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So Sam, first thing I want to ask you about this particular game is I want to ask you about that concept of the action selection track and the idea of whoever's at the end of that track gets to go next. The first time I think we ever saw something similar to this was Patchwork, right?
Yeah.
This idea that you want to kind of slow play it a little bit. You don't want to be taking these huge actions and moving yourself way down the track because the game is going to really speed up and come to an end for you. You as a non-gamer, how do you feel about that mechanic? Just that one mechanic.
I didn't. It took a while to get used to it in Patchwork. I understand the benefits more now, having played a few more games like that. But it is a learning curve.
Okay.
And it is difficult when someone takes your spot. You have to keep moving.
Right.
So
kind of a little bit like worker placement games, right?
Yes.
Like where you've got that one thing you really want to do, but you can be blocked out of it.
You have to change. You have to be able to change your strategy, which is not always easy for a non-gamer.
Yeah. Is that a fun thing for you?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's something I look for, but it's not a complete deterrent either.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So with this one, the idea being that you need to have your farmers in certain spots so that you can get more of the fruits than the other players. But then not only that, you need to have your farmers in the right spots so that you can be fulfilling those orders and getting them fulfilled before the other players do. So this is a race game trying to get your people in the right spot to get the crops so that you can deliver them. There's a bit of a tiered process of what you're doing here in this game. What was it like for you?
Yeah, I think that it's nice. There is a specific order that things need to be done in, but there's also other things that you can be doing at the same time. So if you aren't able to land exactly where you need to, you can it's not a travesty to change your strategy and to be able to kind of think forward a little bit, change it up, and then go on with your plan.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about area majority games, right? That if it's all about, well, I didn't win this spot and I lost out on those points, how else am I going to win this game, right? Like there's got to be other paths to still win the game, even if you didn't win the area majority parts of it. And I think this game has that, right? Like you can still find other ways with the water or selecting the actions that let you fulfill some of the goals, or fulfill some of the cards, right? It's not just about getting that area majority. So I really like that aspect of it. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the chunky wooden fruit pieces. What'd you feel about
nice.
that?
Yeah, I like those components for sure.
For sure, 100%. So, that's something that we saw in Juicy Fruits, a game a while back that had those chunky wooden pieces.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have a game with fruit or vegetables in it,
make it chunky.
Make it chunky. Make it chunky wooden pieces. All right, so let's get to pros and cons here for this particular game. Sam, what to you stands out in a good way as a non-gamer playing this one?
It's a very visually stimulating game. I think it's pretty and it's fairly simple to understand. I think there's some learning curves with the
action selection track.
Yeah. And just figuring out, what order you need to do things in. But like I said earlier, it's easy to change your strategy if you need to, which is a good thing for a non-gamer.
Multiple paths for victory with this game, for sure.
Yeah,
I think going back to what you said about it being visually stimulating, I think, they did a great job here making it clear what the different regions were without it being so stark and here's a color blob over here and here's a color. Like, it goes well with this, right?
Yeah.
Because, I know that this red field is going to be making the cherries, and I know this yellow field is going to be making the lemons, right? Like, that works, and I like the way the board is organized to make that work. And so, I like the way it looks on the table. I would agree with you. And then you throw in those chunky wooden fruit pieces.
Yeah.
That's just really cool too. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. It says it's 30 minutes per player on the box, which means, that a 2-player game would be about an hour, but I don't feel like it was an hour. What did you think on that?
No, I mean, maybe close, but I don't think it was. Definitely not more.
It didn't ever feel like it was getting long or stale, right? Like, I felt like, okay, that was 45 minutes, maybe. Yeah. Like, I was shocked to see that the box says 30 minutes per player. I would not have guessed that. I would have thought maybe 15 minutes per player, but I don't know. That's more.
It was just so much fun.
It was so much fun, yeah. Okay, anything about this one that doesn't work so great for you?
I mean, I think anytime that you're having to change your plans multiple times, it can get frustrating.
Okay.
And there is a decent amount of things to be paying attention to. It was hard for me to pay attention to how many people I had in a certain area because I was more focused on the growing, selling process. So it is a heavier game for a non-gamer, I think, just because there's multiple things that your attention has to be on.
And I wouldn't say there's a ton of iconography in this game, but there is some iconography.
Yeah. I definitely, as we were moving around the track, I would ask Lance, what does this mean again? Because I'm horrible at iconography.
Yeah. And it's just the icons are maybe similar, and so you do kind of have to be like, okay, so I see that one's slightly different than that. What are the differences there between those two? So there are some questions that are probably going to come up with this one that you'll have to answer along the way the first 2 or 3 times maybe that you're playing it. So that could be a con, I suppose. I wouldn't say it's a huge one, though.
Yeah.
For me, I think the game really does a good job of being competitive and making it not 100% clear who's running away with the victory in this one because you don't have a score track. Everything's sort of kept a little bit hidden.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the money, and if you're keeping track of how many times people are getting coins, you have an idea.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pro that is a little bit concealed. I do think that as the game sort of develops and progresses, you can start to see that people have fulfilled more orders. And I wouldn't say it's a runaway leader in this game, but if you're not maybe keeping up with other players, then and if you start to fall behind in this one, I don't know, that it could be very difficult to kind of find ways to keep up towards the later portions of the game. I think you do have to kind of be on a good track from beginning of the game to really have a shot towards the end of the game, if that makes sense. So. All right, so let's get to scores here for Alpujarras on a scale of 1 to 10, love to hate. What do you think about this one?
I think it's a solid game. I'd probably give it a 7.1.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I really like this one, actually. I don't know if I conveyed that enough throughout the course of this video, but I really do like this game quite a bit. It was an interesting, different kind of take from a Dr. Finn game because usually they don't have as many components or as many working parts to it. Or at least that's kind of what I seem to experience with a lot of their games. But this one definitely kind of wowed me a little bit with as much of the components and some of the moving parts to this game. But it also never really felt like it was too heavy to play with Sam. So I really appreciate that with this one. And I liked it a lot. I'm going to give this one a 7.6. So it's definitely one that I would come back to again. I'd like to get it off the shelf and play it on a game night with some people. It doesn't necessarily have to be a heavy hardcore gamer group. I can play it with casual gamers, or I think I could play this with a gamer group because I think it's going to work well for either crowd. So I like it, and one maybe you would recommend for non-gamers?
Yeah, I think it's a good one.
All right. So the game is Alpujarras. It is from Dr. Finn's Games. Leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about this one.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.